Hi, hello. Welcome to the channel. And this today I just saw Basarik sent a tweeters about his videos on the ESScript module or ESM, and it's an excellent videos. I encourage you to check it out and give it a like. And I also want to work on this topic for quite a while, and I didn't get a chance to do it because I was working on Automata and the Just Web and all other kind of stuff, right? So today I'm going to do this kind of a just talk or just code session and go over some of the topics that I want to go through, and which are these. So what we are going to go through is the meanings of ESM. So by the way, so what we are going to do is, again, Basarik have an excellent video, go check it out. And it talk about why, what ESM is and how to convert and set up your project and things like that. So that's great stuff. And what I'm going to do in this session is talk about all the details and the, pros and cons and the problematic stuff that you might be interested in. And here are the high level topics. So the meaning of ESM, that's what I'm going to start with, and then going to talk about the module, the type module, which Basarik also touched on, and I'm going to expand on it a little bit. And then I'm going to talk about deal package, because that's one of the main concern or main things you need to decide when you try to work on your project. Do you create a project that just expose ESM or CJS, CommonJS, right? And what's the pros and cons of that? And then talk about a little bit about the difference between them. And then the next thing is about the exports, the export mechanism, how you should actually do it, and what kind of the variants and what you need to be aware of. And then the next thing is about the TS config. What do you need to be, what to set up over there, and also some pitfall and some details about that. Then the next step is the tool. There are two things and two tools that I would recommend you go and check it out, and I will cover that. And then the last piece is about how to consume ESM, and there are some things you should aware of, and especially that's where it gets to the pain point of doing ESM or distributing ESM and then consuming it on the TypeScript side. So that's what you might find interesting. So without further ado, let's get started. So the first thing, the meaning of ESM. So if you're familiar with the topic, you probably understand what it is. ESM, what it stands for is ESMscript module, right? So ESMscript, ECMA. SCRIPT, ESMscript module, right? So it was one of the specification or part of the specification of ES 2015, right? 2015, and it was the deemed complicated, and they took it out and then implemented later on, and people start adopting it in the time being. And then in Node.js 14, that's when Node.js really starts supporting it. And even till today, the Node.js still have it under a experimental flag, but the adoption is kind of improving gradually. And besides that, or I should say, that is the definition, that is the official definition of ESM, right? But the things we talk about today is actually about the support of ESM in Node.js, because the ESM itself is just the specification or the mechanism on how you write the code and consume the code. So say you do import export, right? Instead of in the CommonJS you're using require, right? You're using require in the past, and even in older code, right? Require is basically a Node.js thing, right? So besides the require mechanism, you also have script files, right? That go back to even to just writing JavaScript scripts for HTML to consume, right? Then there's no Node.js, no nothing, and then from there you have the require.js, right, and the AMD module, and then people start to figure out there are UMD, right, to try to breach the difference, between script files, AMD, and also Node.js, right? So then from there, most people start to write JavaScript on Node.js, and so the majority of people now today understand the require mechanism, which Node.js provide. Then after that, then that's the import export with the ESM, right? So therefore, right, what we're talking about is the support of ESM in Node.js, right? Why I stress that is because before this, right, say, because we will talk about TypeScript. So when we are working on TypeScript, so I can actually show you, say, for example, code over here, right? We have been in TypeScript, we have been writing code in kind of in ESM for a very, very long time because we can, right? In Java, in TypeScript, we can do that, and then the TypeScript just transpiled it down to what Node.js understand, the CommonJS mechanism. Right, so we are doing export and doing import, and just in case you don't know, in the past, it still kind of support doing the export equal, right? But now you shouldn't do that, right? Just last week, I was working on a PR on a popular package, and the type definition of it was using export equal, which is the old way to do things, and now people really don't do it anymore, right? And so that's that. So so in the TypeScript land, we have been doing this for a long time. So then why now we still start talking about ESM again is because TypeScript in TypeScript 4.7, it starts supporting native ESM mechanism. That's for Node.js, right? Before that, you can still, you can do this for a long time, that you can write your module to any of these ES 2015 and above. Then when it transpile, actually, let me just do it right now. I don't think it will work like that, but let me see if that works, because I never really think about doing that. This is live. So you can see that this is working, right? It's exported as a ESM syntax, right? While if you do it do the CJS way, it will convert it to using module.export or just export like this, and this can be consumed by Node.js, right? So we in TypeScript land we have this for a long time, but what we are talking about now is using the Node 16 or the Node Next, which I'm going to cover it a little bit, which it will produce a code that can be consumed by Node.js in ESM, right? In ESM mode, so to speak, right? So that's what we are talking about. Okay, so let me see. Give me a second. Okay, so that's what the two meanings of the ESM that I want to touch on. So the next thing is about the type module. So if you check out Basarek's excellent video, you will see that it talk about this in the package.json. You would set this to signify it is a ESM module package, right? So this is, of course, this is a mechanism of Node.js, right? But at the same time, if we just talk about Node.js itself, so take TypeScript away a little bit, then this is not really a required thing to make it a ESM package, right? So what this type module does is really signifies Node.js. It tells Node.js that if any file you encounter inside this package with the extension of .js, treat it as ESM module. That's what this type module does, right? So say if I take it out, if I don't have it, and then if I produce my code and produce it as an MJS or produce it as a CJS, for example, like this, then even if you do not have the type module included in your package.json, Node.js will still work correctly because it will see that, oh, this file is actually an MJS, so it will treat it as, it will know that it is a ESM file. It will assume it is ESM file. So of course, if you produce the wrong result, you put a common JS code in there, it will fail, right? The same thing for the CJS. So the extension will be sufficient just by itself for Node.js to do its work. However, in TypeScript land, right, by default, what we get is for one, we don't produce a reference with the extension to begin with. So that's one thing that you will need to do. So say, let's see if I have some example here. Let me go to this place, go to Automata. So say, for example, like this, right? So over here, what you see is I already, well, actually, do I have one that is not, yeah. Give me a second. Let me actually add one of the package. So let's say satisfy this, that should be good enough. So for example, over here, anything is not. I did have it produce. Yeah, nah, that is not a good example. Well, let's put it this way. So when you are writing your code, right? In the past, you would just say when you want to import a file next to it, you would just specify the file name without the extension, right? However, with that, when you create, when the TypeScript compiles it, it will keep the same string, right? It will keep this relative path as is without making any changes. And that's one thing we're also going to talk about the problems that it has. So so because of that, when the Node.js tries to consume it, it will go through the discovery mechanism to say, oh, is it a CSM command.js or it is a ESM file, right? And what determines that will be based on a combination of these that I just talked about. Right, so that's what goes into those. And so that is, well, I get ahead of myself a little bit, is that when you're actually writing the package in ESM or supporting ESM, nowadays, now you need to include the extension, and it is a little bit weird that it include the .js extension, but that's what's needed today. And that's something I would come back to in a moment. So that's what this type module is. And besides that, right, so let's get back to here. This is not the package. Let me go here, right? So so that's what this type module is about. And then also it the next things to talk about is this export, right? And before I get into this export, I want to touch on the default stuff and also the older mechanism. So again, in Node.js, right? This main field is what used in the existing Node.js to indicate what is the entry point of your package, right? So that was the main, right? And if you look at some other some package out there, you might also see this module, or another thing is JS Next, right? So you might see these two, and this two is also what people does is use this to point to the code that in ESM that is written in ESM syntax, and that gets back to the point that I made at the beginning of the video, that Node.js does not support the ESM officially until Node.js 14, and the way it's supported is through this type module and this exports. So these are the unofficial one that people utilize, and what's consumed are the bundlers or some other tools that, you know, the JavaScript community try to figure things out, right? Try to make things work. And so say the bundler like Webpack, Rollup, I think Rollup also supported that it would know and understand these fields to see, oh, this module have this module field, and so I'm go ahead and try to consume it as a ESM, right? So in the Webpack, I don't have a example over here now because the code that I have is using Vite. So if you have worked on Webpack in the past, you might know about the resolve alias part, and where it you can specify the order to resolve the code with, and that's where you can specify either main, module, or browsers, or other things, and you can order it and say which one you want to take first, right? So that's what's the unofficial mechanism to consume ESM, and that ESM is the ESM that I was talking about when we were using things like this, the years 2015, 2022, and so on. Right, those are the one that is used, and for those, the .js extension is not required, and the Webpack and all those tools will understand that, right? But when we are talking about what we are talking about today is the support of ESM in Node.js natively, that doesn't work, right? So that we need to get back to this. Okay, so that's what it is about. So I have made so many changes. So that's what the type module and the older mechanism. So the export, the variants, I will go over it a little bit later. But before that, I want to go over the deal package pros and cons. So what that means is now, since Node.js natively support both, right, the CommonJS and ESM, then should you convert your package to expose just ESM, or you want to support both, right? So the Node.js mechanisms allows you to do that, right? And the code is, well, the documentation in Node.js will talk about it, but down here, so you can see that you can do this, right? But there is a warning, right? There is a dual package hazard, right? So there are, you can read through this. I'm going to go over some key points why there the main issue is basically 4 things, right? So number 1 is that so since I'm talking about it, let's go over that first. So the number 1 is the size of, well, kind of the size of the package, because in Node.js, you know, the way that it resolve code, it using the is module resolutions, and you can end up with having 2 versions of the same code. One is CJS, one is ESM inside your bundle, inside your final application. Because when you say, for example, you have your app, and under your app, you include a library A, right? And then you also include a library B, and your app is written in ESM. Okay, so when you package this, and let's say library B is distributed as both ESM and CJS, CommonJS, right? It's like this, right? CJS plus ESM, right? And so when you're bundling, because you are in ESM, you probably would get the ESM version of the library B, right? So here you will get the ESM. But then you might also using library A, which is written in CommonJS. And because it is written in CommonJS, when you bundle, it cannot get the ESM directly, right? Unless it's use a dynamic import. But that's very unlikely the case. So what you end up is, when you bundle, you will get the CommonJS version of library B over here. And so now in your bundle, you're basically doubling the size, right? You're having the library B in CJS in your bundle, and also the ESM version of it in your bundle. So the size is one problem, but that is actually the least concern. But it's just the fact that is, and also one thing I want to point out, the benefit of ESM, you probably know, is it it's much smaller. The file size is much smaller because in CJS there's a lot of other things in there, and especially when you bundle and stuff, there would be some polyfill and some overheads that's added by the bundler. So the size of the files would take a hit or put in another way, when you convert it to ESM or consuming the code as ESM, you will get the benefit of smaller bundle size. Right, so that's a good thing. So size is one issue. And then the other issue is state. Right, so state is actually the main concern people talk about, because if it's the same issue over here, right? The issue comes from this, right? At the end, your application will have the library B in both ESM and CJS form. And so if the library B contains some internal state, so like say it's a module scope state, and that's actually a video that I want to talk about. There are actually 4 kinds of state lifecycle that you should be aware of. And in this case, it's talk about the module level states. So if it has that, then you can see that there would be a problem, because the code would not work as what you expect, right? Because say for example, inside the library B there is a counter, right? There's a value called counter, and it will increment every time you instantiate a class, for example, right? Then if the library A go ahead and create an instance of a class inside library B, then this counter will be incremented. But then if you in your application go ahead and do the same thing, then this counter will be incremented. Then you can see that is not what you expected, right? And of course, counter is a very small thing, but if you talk about sharing some state and creating some object and want to pass between them, or they try you want them to, you know what will happen, right? So that is the main issue of DIL packaging. And then the other things that you will encounter is like say instance config, right? Instance of config. Right, so this is again the same thing. So assume your thing about this counter is a class, right? So now you have an instance. So then the instance of keyword will not work because they spawn from 2 different pieces of code, right? And the instance of is based on in a simple term, in my sense, is based on nominal typing, right? So there is a class called counter over here, and there is a class called counter over here also. They are from 2 different source code. And so in the JavaScript runtime, it will consider them as 2 different classes. So the instance of, if you create a counter from here and try to, well, actually I should say it the other way. So if you get the counter instance from library B in CJS form through the library A, and then try to check if it is an instance of the counter in the library B that you include or import directly, it will fail because it's 2 different classes. So that's the problem. The last things, or one more thing, is type config, and that's also very easy to understand, and that is quote unquote not just a CJS ESM DIL package issue. Is a basic problem of TypeScript itself. And the type config I'm talking about is the conflicts between types. So again, in TypeScript, the class is also nominal typed. right? If it is a just type alias or in interface, and that's kind of okay. But if this class is nominal type, and you will get the same conflict as you would get in the using the instance of keyword. And why I say it's not just a dual package issue is because when you end up, well, you include a lot of different dependencies, and the dependencies include a lot of other dependencies, and they end up the same but with different versions. That is something that Node.js itself supports. That's what the module resolution supports. But TypeScript doesn't really work well in those cases, because they will see that the type will conflict each other. Right, you have the type of one version and the type of another version, and if they are the same, right, if they haven't changed the type of or the type is still compatible, then that's okay, right? But if it is a nominal type like a class, or the type actually change between the version, then when you try to use it, it will become a problem, right? The TypeScript will start complaining. And that is because of the global nature of the TypeScript types. So that's that. So those are the 4 things that why dual package is not good, right? So that's why you will hear a lot of people don't recommend you to do dual packaging, right? However, how about on the flip side, right? On the flip side, what's the benefit that you get is, of course, obviously, wider support to older consuming code. And that is a real key benefit, right? Especially, say, for example, for myself, I do a lot of open source projects. And if I convert it to ESM, and if I need to make change and I need to support both, then I need to go back to the older version and do the fix, and then also do the same fix in the ESM version if I want to support both. And in most cases, right, out there, people might think that that is not too big of a issue, or maybe, a lot the fact, or the unfortunate fact is a lot of open source projects just don't worry about that and say, okay, I decide to switch on to ESM. I do a major version bump to get into the new version, and then from there, that's it, right? From that time on, I'm only going to maintain the latest version, which is in ESM. And if you want to use the latest code with the bug fix and so on, you need to upgrade to use the ESM version. In the JavaScript world, that is okay, is a feasible stance, but in my own opinion, or in my experience, it is a much harder thing to do in the TypeScript land. And especially for myself, the open source project I do, I also use it. I use it at work and in some private packages or private projects. And a lot of, when you work on enterprise applications, it is much, much harder to change, right? Once you have some established code, some established product, it's very hard to find time to upgrade it and keep the code stable. And the issue also is a lot of time you can't, right? Because of the consuming part, which I'm going to touch on in when we get to the consuming ESM side. So therefore, for myself, I have not on board on just forget about CommonJS and just do ESM. So all the project I have, and as I am migrating, I'm migrating to support both. And you need to aware of these, right? These issues. And for myself, that is okay, because a lot of the code, a lot of the package that I have are stateless. Right, and even if it is stateful, I would try to make sure that it get away of the module scope state, which is the majority of the problem is. So that's why, say, for example, one of the example is the standard log library that it used to be have more module scope states, which to save all the loggers and the reporters, and then you can just reuse it and so on. But in order to support ESM, I would need to actually change it to localize it and create instances. And so, well, actually, let me just open that up so that you can see. Right, so here, this is the project. So in the standard log, so over here, so you can see that now in the newer code, it have this create standard log functions to create a set of standard log. It have a closure and do all that. You don't need to worry about the detail. And the thing is, how to use it is you call this create standard log to create the actual thing. Then in this actual, that's where you can actual call get logger and do the stuff. In the past, you know, this is a function that is exposed. So the stage that contained in this standard log will be in the module scope. So it's much easier to use, but you know, it runs in the problem of that the state problem that I just mentioned. So that's why I have to change this and release a new versions to support that. So that's the one example of that. So that's the pros and cons about between the deal package. Right. So the other things you need to be aware of is the actual difference between CommonJS and ESM in terms of the code. One of the things I talk about is the extension, right? So on that, so let me get to here. Let's see if I can go back over. Yeah. Right. So besides, well, the file extension is one thing, right? The other things is like this, the file name and directory name. The folder name is no longer available. You have to use import meta.url, and then there are some other differences. So you can't use require anymore. So you can require package.json. Right, so that's one thing you need to change. You need to convert it to use, you know, a file fs to load the file instead, and JSON parsing. Yeah, JSON parse the file. So those are some of the differences. For the details, I'm not going to go too deep into it. So you can go here, go to the Node.js documentation and check it out. Right. So, but there is some difference that you need to do. So it's not just, you know, just change the your code from require to import export and that's it, right? There's a little bit more to it. So that's that. And then so now we can talk about this exports, right? The export field over here, right? So you can see that basically there are this also, you know, all this information obviously is in the Node.js documentation, and then I'm not showing my screen. So over here in this export, Right, you can definitely check it out over there. So, but there is some highlights that I will want to point out. One is it has to be using relative path. So you in the past, say for example in the main field, you could just write it like this. So cjs.index, and then the Node.js will know how to do it. But in the ESM way, you cannot. It have to be starting with the dot to indicate that it is a relative path that's required. So you need to do that. And then in the inside the export, you can use the import and the require to specify how specifically how people would which file to get in which module. So import is for ESM, require is for CommonJS. And you can also include a default, right? So so that will be used if none of them match. And most of the time, just these two will be fine, or you can do it import with default, right? So then the by default, if it is not a ESM, it will fall back to default, and then which is CommonJS, and you just specify it that way. Right, so that will work too. And I actually don't know why that it needs both, but that's how the Node.js team come up with, and that's what you should be aware of, right? So that's that. And then the default field, it must be, the order of this is important. So if you decide to use this default field, do not put it on top, because what happens is when Node.js try to process it, see this default, it will use it regardless, right? So then it will stop there. So if you do it like this, your ESM code will never get access. It will not work. Right, so that's what you need to pay attention to if you use this default. For myself, I just use import and require, so that's what's needed, and that will work. And then the variants, right? So besides it like this, you can also have detailed specification to export multiple things, like say by default the dot, you can do it like this to indicate that if someone require your path, like say require your package, like say in this case standard log, then it will get this file. But then you can also specify some deep linking. So say for example, a JSON, it doesn't exist over here, but I'm just creating it as an example, right? And then over here, then you can specify that it is another entry point, right? So you can control your deep linking behavior of the code. So that is a great improvement, because in TypeScript specifically, we were not able to have this capability in the CommonJS side, while back in the days when you are not using TypeScript in JavaScript, you can do something to it. And maybe another thing is you can just put the file to the top level, bundle it, and do a bunch of stuff. But it's weird, or it's very hard, or even impossible to do in TypeScript. But now, if you're doing ESM, now you can do it like this. But there's a catch, or there is something you have to pay attention, which is this typing. So in TypeScript, we would besides we do the compilation, we also provide the definition files, right? The typings. And traditionally, you would specify it over here, right? Either as typings or as types. Right, either of them work, right? When back in the days when it was using the TSD or the typings tools way before TypeScript 2.0, right? that's where people decide, figure out, try to put it over here. And then TypeScript, when TypeScript 2.0 come in, it supported natively, and it's also support these two mechanisms to declare where the type definition is. So if you were doing the export like this, so let me comment this out for it's not a JSON-C. So like this, then this will continue to work, right? You can still do this, continue to do this. However, if you are doing it this way, right? Say even without the other one, just this way, right? Doing this, then if your code is consumed as ESM, this will not work, right? It doesn't work, at least when the code is consumed as ESM, it would not work. You would need to include the types in here. The reason is actually straightforward if you think about it, because with this syntax, you are telling Node.js some detailed information, say, oh, if someone includes this package at its root, well, that's what this dot means, then you will use this file, right? So it will be the same. It's the same logic in the TypeScript land, that it will say that, oh, I have this kind of deep linking or detailed specification. So when you go here, I will load this file. Then what about the types? Because this type out here would mean for the whole package. I would mean for there's only one single entry point, just like it is when it was CommonJS, like this. So without this, the TypeScript is not smart enough to go here and know that this dot is the same as that. Maybe you can say maybe that is a bug, right? So I actually haven't checked in the TypeScript GitHub to see if someone point that out and try to make that as an improvement. But to what I know and how it behaved today, this code, when I'm making this video, TypeScript is at 4.94, and it's still, the behavior is still the same. So if you're specifying like this, you have to specify this type over here. And the same thing, the benefit, quote unquote, is this: if you specify multiple entry points, right? You're trying to do deep linking, then the file over here can be, you can add something over here like this, right? So let's see, do I have an example? Yeah, I have an example in the private package, but not in the open source. So say you can specify, say, like this. Then when someone try to deep link, right? So try to do import x from standard log.json, right? When they try to do this, then the resolution will go here and get this file as the JavaScript file, and the TypeScript will also go here to get the type definition. So oh yeah, so that is one example I can show you, is that here. Let me ungap. So this is the one package that I use. This is actually the successor of flatted, and is for string files, parsing serialized and deserialized JSON. So this code, this package does not provide a type definition, but there is a type definition in DT, indefinitely type. But that type definition only provide the types for the main main export. So if we go here, this guy is indefinitely type, but this one is not. So if you try to import this package and include the types from definitely type, so add types, well, let me see if I can just quickly cook up an example for you. So let's see, path equal. Let's just do it over here. I'm not going to commit, so that's okay. So in the path equal package, yep. So pm npm add ungap structure cron, and then also types ungap. Actually, I don't need the package itself, but I just go ahead and do it anyway. So in here, you will see these types, and then this is, you can see that there's only one, right? And if I go here and go here, I'm going to mess up my code, but that's okay. Right, so import from, right, so over here you can see that the type definition is working. However, if I doing JSON, you can see that it is not. It doesn't. It can't find it. It doesn't exist. And if you're using this, you will need to create your own typing, right? So ungap. Structured cron JSON, say for example like this .d.ts, right? You will need to declare module and then ungap structured cron and then JSON, right? Like this. And of course you can specify the detail of it, but now you can see that this is recognized because I specified this. So you will need to specify both. You need to do both, and that's missing types in the DT. So if you saw this video, if you want to use that, go ahead and add this in. You just need to export a function of serialize, something like that, and it's pretty easy to do. I just haven't get the chance to do it, but feel free to do that. All right, so that's that. And by the way, well, I'm going to say it anyway, in case I forgot. There's one issue. What I found out is that even that this is definitely a bug in TypeScript. Is there a bug in TypeScript? Actually, I'm not 100% sure if it is issue in TypeScript or in Jest, but I know it is a problem because I just faced it today. So what happened is even if I provide the type, so because what happened is I was using that in the Automata over here, and then I was trying to consume it myself, and the problem it's just right here. So let me just show you this code back here, right? So this code, I was doing importing this and then using it, right? So over here, what you're seeing is I messed up again. I'm actually not showing my screen again. I don't know how long did that happen. Damn it. Stupid. So I hope you can still follow me when I'm talking about that. And so what should I say? So what I just showed you is that this, because I think you saw the package, right? You saw the package that say it doesn't have what the definite type and all that. Where am I? So now when you can see that over here, it doesn't work. So what I did is, you can see down here, I just add the package to the path equal package and then try to use it, right? You can see that if I do it like this, it works, right? You can see the type is working. But if I try to deep reference it, getting a JSON, which is supported, right? Supported by the package itself, right? It have this. This is working in JavaScript side. So that should be working. But in TypeScript, that doesn't work because the definite type definition doesn't have that. So what you need to do is, review in Explorer view over here, and then I delete it already. And you will need to add your own typing files, right? So say ungap structured cron json.d.ts, right? And then declare module ungap structured, not like that, what I'm doing, structured cron json, right, like this. And then you can see that over here now, with that, this is no longer an error, right? And of course, you can just really type it out. So there is a function called parse, and then it takes in a, you can see here, right? Here, right? Is really just that, is string, and then it take a string, and then what it returns is any, is some unknown stuff. You can, if you want to make it fancy, you can make it a t equals to any, and then return t, and then you over here you export the string file code, right? Then, well, let me just keep one of it, so to show you this, now you have the parse function, right? So you need to do that yourself. And what I want to, and then again, you can feel free to add that, adjust that in definitely type to help everyone if they, if you want to share it. And the other things I want to mention is, pay attention to it. That is one of the caveat that I want to get to in the very end, but I afraid I'm going to forget that, so I'm going to talk about it now, which is you could, even if you do that, it's could not work. It could not work. So I just encountered this today, that in the Moctometer, that's what I am talking about, that I have this code, right? I was used to this code that you see here is actually the same code, the code in the package. So actually, let me go here to show you that. Oh, not the structured one. No, here. Right, so it's really just that, right? That is, it's the same code. I have to copy it inside my inside the Moctometer, because if I use it like this, and then when I publish it and then consume it on Jest, I think I don't know if this is a Jest issue yet. Is a Jest issue, Node.js issue, or a TypeScript issue. I cannot find module error. It doesn't work, and it cannot recognize that as a module and try to find the right file. I do test it by running a test.cjs file using Node itself. It works fine. So it should be something either related to Jest or TSJS or TypeScript. and I don't know which is which. I haven't get a chance to dig deep into it. So if anyone, any of you saw this video and knows, let me know, or leave it in a comment, or if you figure some additional things, post it in the TypeScript GitHub, so everyone would knows about it and see if they can fix that problem. So for me, for this, I cannot use that. I have to include this back in, and then when I publish it and consume it, it works. So that's one problem when you try to consume ESM and try to get more complicated stuff working. So that's that. Okay, so back to here. So the export and reference, okay. So we cover that. We cover all that. Yep, those all the things we need to. I want to cover. Yep, I'm good. Okay. So the next topic, the next things is about the TS config. Okay. So you saw me change it a couple times during these videos, and you probably knows what they are, the basic stuff, which is this Node 16 in Node.js. So again, to repeat myself in case you just jumped to this session, because I know this is a streaming video, so it's kind of over the place and the pace is a little bit slow, so feel free. So I'm going to repeat it again, that the for module, right, in the past you were doing the you can use ESM syntax by specifying you can, correction, you can use ESM syntax to write your code for a very long time, right? Doesn't matter which module selection value you set over here, right? You can write it using import export. It's the transpiled code, right? Will it be in CommonJS, or will it be in ESM? That's what we are configuring over here. And in the past, right, you can tell TypeScript to create ESM like or ESM syntax, because it is technically it is valid ESM syntax, right? By using any of this, the ES15 and 2022. I actually don't know if there is much of a difference in terms of module. In target, definitely there's a huge difference between them, but I actually don't know the details about what's the difference between the module in years 2015, 20, and 22. I feel like they probably should be the same, but there's some tiny details that I don't know of, I haven't used. So any of this should produce the ESM syntax compliant code. However, if you use this, it will not work in Node.js. The main thing is because in Node.js, it requires you to have the extension. Right, you have the .js at the end of your identifier. So you have to choose either Node 16 or Node Next, right? The Node Next is just like the ESNext that it will be moving. So, and then the same thing over here, you will select Node 16 and Node Next over here. So which one should you choose? The question is. And what I would recommend is choose Node 16, right? Not Node Next. The reason for choosing that is the same as why I don't use ESNext over here or ESNext over here, because for each version of TypeScript, the newer version of TypeScript release, the ESNext meaning could change, right? So, quote unquote, if you want your code keep up to date and less maintenance, yes, you can do that. You can change that, and then every time it builds, and when you update the TypeScript version, it will get updated to the new syntax, right? The code that it generates will confirm with the latest syntax. But as a library author, in my opinion, that's not a good thing, right? Because when you do that, you might accidentally create some breaking change or create some unforeseen changes to the package without knowing it. So then your firmware might get misaligned to what the actual change that you have, and you can create bugs at the consuming side. So therefore, if you are doing this, you are trying to create a library, I would recommend you to use Note 16, not Note Next. Maybe for the end application, yes, you can do that, if it is an application, but for library, I would not recommend doing that. So that's the two things about this package.json, right? And also, give me a second. Actually, let me take a short break. Give me a moment. All right, sorry, I'm back. I was coughing a little bit. And also one thing to note is that if you are distributing your package in ESM, when you are the one who consume it, or when you're consuming writing your code that's consuming a ESM package, you will also need to do this. You need to set the module to Note 16 or Note Next in that case. Right, in that case, if your code is a N library, or not library, N application, right? So you need to do that, because if not, it will not recognize those syntax, the .js syntax. So that's also why it's kind of hard to consume the to migrate all your code to ESM, but that will be a little bit too detailed. So just remember that when you consume it, you also would need this. Also, what other things you need to pay attention to? Remember, the source map. Source map, because you're transpiling code, most of the time you should turn on source map, right? And then and then in the over here, when you are publishing, right, you can either when you need to have the source map support, you would either include your source code in your package, so that you can the source map can actually find the code. Because what happened is in TypeScript, if you just turn on source map, right? So say, for example, over here, let's see, let me give you an example, okay? Right, so like this. When trying to build it, can I specify inline source map to? I have the inline source. Okay, so well, for this video, I'm not going to talk too deep into the differences or all the things about source map. I just want to tell you the important piece. So say if I turn on source map, right? So if I look at the source map, no, that's not what it should generate. What's going on? Just source map equals to true. Let me see. Yeah. Here. So you see that it have the mapping over here in the source map, and then it mentioned the source here. So what happened is, if you do not include your source in your distribution, then when the consumer side try to consume it and try to bundle the stuff, the Webpack, for example, you're using Webpack to bundle the code, it will actually cannot find the source map, where the map to, because it doesn't have the source, right? So you would need to, over here in the base, right? You would need to either doing that, or you inline the source. And the inline source is actually what I would recommend to do, because even again, this should be a different videos, but I just want to mention it to make sure that you were able to create a good package that can be consumed without problem. Well, but that's its problem. But anyway, you would need to do the source map and also do the inline source. All right, that's what I have figured out, and the details, all the detail stuff, and I still need to analyze it and get it to a good state so that I can share it with you methodologically. But for now, just remember that you probably that would be the best bet for you to do. But if you don't do the inline source, you should have the source map turned on and then include the source in your package. So that's one. The other thing, what's going on over here? The other things I want to mention, TypeScript, is this. So if you are doing ESM, right, note that the source map will actually not work. So I actually have a bug created in the TypeScript and talk about this. So here, that's the problem. So this package, this is unpartial. The unpartial package, I wrote it, I converted to ESM and try to consume it as ESM. And you would see that this is incorrect. The source map will be incorrect because of the file extension issue. Because the file extension is become .js, and this, you can see that this is what it should be working, the one that is working over here. So you can see that this map to the source folder, this is an older version of unpartial before I converted to ESM. And so you will see this is the index.ts, and it export do the barrel export of the required unpartial. And you can see where is, let's see if I can show you. Okay, so here, so you can see that this is this require will be without the .js, and that is the old code before I convert to TSM. ESM, and then you can see that the source map were able to figure out, okay, relate or connected to the actual source code, the source map of the code. So because this is a screenshot, I can't really click on it, but if I click on it, you will see the actual code in there through the source map. But for this guy, you can see that it is using the .js, and then over here in the source map, it does not have the other thing. Yeah. So you can see that this is broken right now, right? So that's what you will get into in if you convert your code to ESM. So that is an existing bug because of the ESM support in TypeScript 4.7. And it is not fixed yet. So you would need to, if that is important to you, you will make your own decision that should you convert your code to ESM today, or you wait a little bit later, right? So on that topic, right, that's one thing related to this, which no, here in 5.0. Yep, it's this guy. So in 4.9 is already released, and in 5.0 this could be significant. So this is the if you follow the issue that I just showed you about the source map, it linked to a very long discussion about the problem with the .js extension, and then it also linked to this this issue, which would propose to allow using .ts as the import suffix. If in TypeScript 5.0 would able to do this and support this well, then that could probably also solve the source map problem, because now the actual file name and the identifier is the same, so the source map will work, should work correctly. And so this, I look forward to 5.0. Hopefully, this will be implemented in 5.0. Again, if I get into this topic, that's another hour will pass. So back to our topic over here. So that's that. So that's all the TS config you need to worry about. And then the tooling. Okay. So there are two toolings I want to shout out to. One is this TSC ESM fixed. So remember, I just talked about the file extension, right? So now if you want to convert your code to ESM, you need to add the file extension. But if your code have many files, doing that would be a very tedious job. So this tool can help you to do that. I actually have a blog post about it. If you want to know a little bit detail or read the text, you can go there to the TypeScript guideline. Excuse me, sorry. Over there and talk about it. So the bottom line, what you need to do is where's the command line? Over here. What you need is these two flags. All right, these two options. One is the source, specified in the source folder, and then one is the extension, and then set it to .js. And you need to specify both. I don't know if it makes sense to ask the author Anthony, I forgot, to make that as the default, but currently it's not default. So what you need to do is you can use npx or pnpx, you know, depends on what the package manager you're using, and then run tsc esm fix, and then source equals to then I'm not showing my screen again. So over here, source, and then in my case will be TS. In your case, most likely is SRC or source, whatever. And then you have to specify ext. I know the font is a little bit dark, so let me, .js like this. All right, so you do this, run it, it will take care of that for you, and is do a pretty decent job of doing that. So utilize this to help you converting your package to ESM syntax. And the other tools I want to shout out is this dynamic foundation ESM, right? So remember I mentioned about the difference about between CommonJS and ESM is some of this, you know, specific, particularly these two fields does not exist in ESM code, so you need to convert it and use the import meta.url, but it's a little bit tedious. So this package allows you to get that back by doing this, right? So include that, and then call the dynam, pass in the import meta, and then it will do the right thing for you to give back the dynam and the file name for you to use, right? So I personally use it a couple times because I have code that work on Node.js native locally on the file system, and then need this. I do a lot of package involved, testing. So on that, I would need to use this, and this is a great tool to use. So you can definitely check this out. All right, now we are finally to the last topic I want to talk about is consuming ESM. So on that, so if you, first of all, when you are consuming the ESM, it falls into two cases, right? Is your package, or now as a consumer, is your code, let's say your application, is it in CommonJS or it is already in ESM? If it's in CommonJS, then number one is you cannot do require of the ESM directly because it will be asynchronous. You need to use dynamic import. So you would need to I keep coughing. So you will need to say module equals to async import, and then the ESM package, right? You need to do it like this. Right, so that's one. You need to do that, and then if you can't do that, then you will need to rely on transpilation, right? Using Babel to do that. And so that's one side of it, and the other side of it is ESM, and also both of them I need to talk about testing. But let me finish the ESM part first. So in the ESM, as I mentioned, you need to use the module resolution, right? Actually, it's not the module. I was set it wrong at the beginning. So you will need to set the module resolution to node 16 in order to tell TypeScript to understand you are including some package that is written in ESM for Node.js, right? So if you do not do this, if you set this, keep this as node, it will not able to find that package, right? So you need to change that to node 16 or node next if you're an application and if that's what you want, right? So you need to set that up. And then another thing is that before you switch to ESM, right, you might have heard of these two settings. Right, one is allow synthetic default import, and one is this ES module interrupt. Right. So I'm not talking about this today, and I think it will continue to work, but I'm not sure. So that's why I'm not going to. I don't want to talk about it because I'm not sure. But for the ES module interrupt, it will, if you convert your code. So again, this is the case that your application or your code is in ESM, then this won't work, right? This won't work, and actually you probably should turn it off because, well, your code, this is meant to be consuming CommonJS code as ESM. Right, remember, you're writing your code regardless you're using the end result is ESM or not. Right, we have been writing code in TypeScript using ESM syntax for a long time. Right, we're using import and export, and so when we are importing CommonJS code, if the package was CommonJS, right, then you turn this on would allow you to do things like import, say Axial, right? Axial from Axial, for example. You like this, and assuming Axial is CommonJS, right? In the newer version, in 1.0, is actually in ESM, but let's say you're using the CommonJS version, and it does not have the default export, right? Because it's in ESM. So these settings, let me put it side by side. These settings allow you to use this syntax instead of using the star as Axial, which is getting the name export and all those stuff, right? So that's what that is. But because now you are writing in ESM, this doesn't make sense anymore because you are already in ESM, and since you are already in ESM, the TypeScript cannot get the CommonJS and then fix it as ESM, because if not, it will confuse itself. So this doesn't work. You need to turn it off, and then your code, if you were consuming CommonJS code in ESM, well, not CommonJS code in ESM, but you're consuming CommonJS code, right? You might need to change it. Say, for example, the actual case, I'm not going to get the definite answer to that because it depends. So you might say, for example, you need to write it like this, right? Get the default as that, or you would use the other way to get star as Axial, and so on to load your CommonJS. So expect there could be some errors in this area, and this doesn't work, right? So that's the key about that. And if not, well, not if not, yeah, that's good, right? So that's what you need to know. Depends on you're using CommonJS or using still producing CommonJS or ESM. The other things that you need to be aware of is about testing. And that is one of the main pain points in today's TypeScript community. And in my opinion, that is one of the biggest roadblock for TypeScript ecosystem to adopt ESM, which is the testing, which is, I'm talking about Jest. So let's take a look at Jest. So the Jest, first of all, actually, before I talk about JS, let's talk about what the options. If you can change, and if you're willing to change, you want to change your test runner, then you can use other test runner that support ESM much better. For example, AVA, right? AVA, or VTest, right? In Vite, using VTest. Those it internally using rollup and all that, and it works much better compared to Jest. But the reality is Jest nowadays is probably the most popular test runner, and is for a good reason. It's very nice, very good, very easy to use, and the watch extend plugin system is very good. You know, I have some watch plugin I publish myself, like this Jest Watch Suspend, right? So I love Jest for that. But its support of ESM is tough. It's tough. It's supported for quite a while, but you will run into a lot of case, and here's what it is. So I'm going to comment out some of the not relevant stuff here, so that you can see what that is. So for one is, when you were using Jest in Common JS environment, you can choose using TS Jest or using Babel Jest to transpile your code, because you know Babel can also transpile TypeScript code. And in my opinion, when I was using TS Jest, and then I actually switch over to Babel Jest because I don't want the type checking feature in my test for inside Jest, because that slows me way down. And since Babel is also faster, it just strip out the type definitions, so I switch it over using Babel. But for the ESM, I'm not 100% sure, but I think the ESM 1 still doesn't work with Babel Jest. Correct me if I'm wrong. I would love to give it a try switching back, but it doesn't work, and I have to switch back to TS Jest. And the TS Jest documentation have some information about how to do that. And however, there are some problem with that, right? So one thing is, it will mention you have this, so that's this part is good. And then the module name mapper, this is for stripping out the .js extension that we add manually, you know, to the identifier, to strip it out back to remove that thing, remove the .js, and that's what's needed for the Jest to operate. So that is also needed. And then on the transform, this is also true. And you can see that I turn on the isolated modules to turn off some of the type checking. It's not a complete solution, but better than nothing. And then if you are using, if your code is still will be transpiled to Common JS, then you don't need to use this. You can skip that. And then this guy. This is kind of the pain stuff. So what happened is that you can in your Jest, you can add the experimental flag. So if you go to the TS Jest, you can see. Let's see. Let me show it to you. Jest, TS Jest. So the documentation, ESM support, right? So over here, right? This is what I'm talking about. So you need to add this experimental VM modules to your Jest code. What you can do is doing this. You can use cross env so that it will work on both Windows and Mac OS and Linux, right? To specify this, and with that, I'm not say with 100% confidence but you might not need this, but I think you will still need to in certain cases. So what this means is that there could be some code that is written in ESM, and then the Jest couldn't figure it out, and so you need to use this negative look ahead to tell Jest to not ignore that, continue to transform that and convert that to CommonJS. If not, it won't work, right? So that's one thing. And then the other thing is that in the here, right? And here I need to point out Chalk, right? Because Chalk is a very famous package. And then when you try to run the task with that, you have to do additional things. Because inside the Chalk, it was using some path resolution to include these two packages internally inside the Chalk. It used to be these two are their own package, and then Chalk will include them as a normal dependencies. But in the newer version of Chalk, it was using the local resolution mapping stuff to map it to this identifier, and then it go to this source location. So under the Chalk package, there's this source vendor blah to this index.js, and during the test, you need to tell Jest that where to find this, right? This is what you would need to do. If not, it won't work, right? And that could happen to other packages too. So this is regardless of what the existing setting. You can see that in this case, this is Moctometer. I have this all set up with this guy and with all this, but I would still need to do this. If not, it will not work. But you need to do that. And then one last thing about this is, say if let's see, keep picking this up. Yep. So this is the another thing I want to point out. So inside the TSJS documentation, okay, so in here, so here is mentioned that you can have two ways to do things. Do this. You can do the manual configuration, and this describe what I was talking about over here. And then you can also using this preset. Okay. And what I have found out, and thus that's why I have opened this ticket, is that settings doesn't work in certain case. And I won't get too deep into the details, and just if you're interested, go there and take a look at this bug. And so what I found out is the problem is when I was using that preset. So if I don't use that, prefix presets and just do this, it will work fine. So that's another thing that you should pay attention to. So with that, I think we are done. And this is, as you can see, that is a lot to cover about the ESM. That's why it took me a very long time to decide to make these videos, because I still need to probably clean this up a little bit so that I can create a more condensed version of this video. But in here, I have shown you all of the things that I know about ESM and TypeScript and what what are the things that you need to pay attention, and what are things that you would encounter. So hopefully that would be helpful, and sorry that this is a very long videos. And if I get a chance, or anyone you watch the videos can help me to get some timestamps in the comments, that would be great. Thank you very much for that. And with that will be it for this video, and hope you enjoy this, and hope you've learned something, and we will see you next time. Bye bye. And for me, it's probably time to wrap up and go to bed. See ya.